And hello, South Florida. Welcome to another live edition of the Real Estate Show, South Florida's #1 program about real estate and America's longest running daily radio show, all about the topic of real estate. And I want to say hello to all the real estate fans out there all over America, in fact, even all over the world. We got a great show for you today here on our midweek report. Every Wednesday, we got our midweek report. And we come at you 5 days a week at 5 p.m. live, 5 different ways for you to consume the real estate show, starting with our local and original AM 1470. The second, our FM dial options on FM 95.3, 96.9. The app option, for those of you who like to take us on the go, all you have to do is download one of the free apps, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, radio.com, even WWNN, all have apps free. Download them and then just search for WWNN 1470 Money Talk Radio, a combination of those words, and it'll take you right to the radio station. And then all you have to do is be here live at 5 days a week. So we've been talking this week about techniques of transforming debt into wealth. And we talked first on Monday about the difference between good debt and bad debt. And that's an important distinction to make, because there's nothing good about bad debt. And that's just a fact. There's no tax advantages to it. There's no interest payment advantage to it. There's no interest rate advantage to it. All the way across, it's basically paying interest on things that either are going down in value or no longer even exist or have value. Then we talk about taking from that good debt, from the bad debt to the good debt, which is, like I said, in loans or debt that have the ability to help you buy strong assets. Loans or debt that have good interest rates, have tax advantages, and a whole bunch of other benefits. Again, all the stuff that we talked about earlier. And then the magic is that if you have a process and if you have a system, then you can go ahead and take that and use that to build more wealth with good debt. And then ultimately the objective is to get rid of all debt. And that's, I think, the ultimate place to be, zero debt, which is why tonight we have at 8 p.m. following our radio show, we will have a workshop. Now, I have given out a text line if you're interested in attending this free workshop. It's less than an hour long. We're going to be talking about the techniques and how to strategically, efficiently, and quickly, cut years off of all of your debt. And I don't care whether it's student loans, credit cards, mortgages, boat loans, car loans, or installment loans, HELOCs, lines of credit, you name it. Whether if you owe it and if it costs an interest rate, we can show you how to cut it down. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And not only that, I'm going to take you from the bad debt conversation to the good debt conversation into showing you how to literally create wealth without sacrificing or changing your lifestyle. So if you'd like to attend that, jot this number down, and you're going to text the word credit to 561-861-2366, only while space is available, 561-861-2366. You can text it right now during the radio show. It's all automated, part of the automatic landlord system. And all you have to do is text the word credit, again, to 561-861-2366. And I will send you a link right after the radio show and getting you access and invitation to our 8 p.m. tonight workshop. So being our midweek report and following our Tuesdays, tools, tips, and techniques, where we talked about actual strategies and techniques. We talked a little bit about the mindset. We talked a little bit about the attitude, and then, of course, some good, practical, actionable things to help you get out of the bad debt. If not directly into wealth, then into good debt, and change that around. So what I wanted to spend time today, this conversation isn't just on the real estate show. If you think about it, it's happening every day, all day. And many times I think it's so commonplace and so accepted that we've become numb to the amount of debt that's out there. the debt is so important, and I don't want to take this in any way into a political arena. That's not what the discussion for this show is. But debt can even become a racial issue, can become a political issue. I was looking as I was trying to sift through the articles that I wanted to share with you on tonight's show. One of the articles on NBC was why it may be hard to close the racial wealth gap. Notice two important topics. Why it may be hard to close the racial wealth gap without forgiving what? Student loans, debt. And so we'll come back around there if time permits. But this is how prevalent it is in the media, in the marketplace. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, President Biden has been trying to lobby to close the racial wealth gap, and doing certain measures. One of which, probably the hottest potato topic of this, was for making it easier for people of all races, but in certain particular races, in order for them to clear the way for them to be able to buy homes. Yesterday, I talked about how student loans might be one of the largest, aside from the lack of inventory, but it might be one of the largest reasons why many millennials, forget what race, but even all the millennials out there that are strapped with a lot of student debt. And we're going to talk about that in one of our headlines. But student debt, of course, is a hot potato out there in the media right now. Speaking about the millennials, I wanted to share this headline, and we'll come back around and talk a little bit more about the details. But millennials double their wealth. Good news, right? Especially when you think about it, good news in the middle of a pandemic. But that's to more than $10 trillion, right? Maybe the millennials can help take us out of this whole financial crisis amidst the pandemic. Millennials double wealth to more than 10 trillion despite the pandemic, despite debt, according to the Federal Reserve. And I want to come back about that. So despite growing wealth, though, however, and the article starts to change its celebratory tone that says, despite growing wealth, the millennials carry more than $4 trillion in debt. So, and the unfortunate part is it's not the same 10 trillion in wealth that carry the 4 trillion in debt. So there you see sort of that 10-4 relationship there. But we'll come back and we'll definitely talk more about that. Also, what I wanted to do, and I wanted to spend more time in the beginning, is talking about personal loan debt statistics, because it's right up the alley of what we've been talking about all week long. And so here are some of the numbers. And a lot of these numbers are very much a result of the pandemic, because these are 2020 results. Okay. We're just not even halfway through 2021, but we've got full results for 2020. And pretty much the full year of 2020 was in the pandemic. So the bottom line here is COVID brought a wave of economic turmoil, starting specifically on March 11th of last year. When I talk about turmoil, I'm talking about huge job loss numbers. You remember where it hit nearly, was over 15%. We were approaching depression level unemployment. Thank God it was very temporary, and thank God a lot of jobs have opened up. In fact, right now, what's the problem? We can't find enough people out there, and won't get into that conversation about some folks that are opting not to work because of some of the stimulus. But the bottom line is that the economy is getting back on its heels, and it is now in a situation where we're talking more about inflation than about crisis. We're talking about price increases, the cost of lumber and building supplies, which of course then will most definitely affect real estate costs. Because here's one of the really neat conversations that I never hear about real estate. People try to wonder, are we in a bubble? And how do you know where the bottom is. Nobody knew back in 2008, 2009. But if you go back to some of my radio shows back in 2008, 2009, and if I'm not mistaken, also back in I'm going to say in the early 2000s, our radio show was still a baby back then, 23 years old now. But we were talking about, you see, real estate prices can go below the cost of construction, right? They can, and they've been there. But here's the more interesting topic that no one ever talks about when you're talking about a recovery. What happens to construction when the cost to buy a finished house is cheaper than building one, right? Or let me rephrase it in another way. What happens when it's more expensive to build a house than it is to buy a fixed finished one? Well, the answer is quite simple. There will be no construction because it doesn't pay to construct to lose money. Because if I build a house and it's going to sell for less than what I paid to build it, and there's not even a profit in there, because when there's profit, that's an incentive for the builders to come out. Right now, the builders are coming out. But the issue is when you see the price of construction today, and there's a challenge to create a profit, I don't think that you're looking at hyperinflated prices. Now, there's all the other conversations that I had before about the stronger borrowing base that we have, the growing millennial purchasing power. P.S. Look at my last headline that we were just talking about, and the increasing demand, the worldwide demand, the spreading out of the demand from the densely populated cities into the more spread out suburbs. There are a whole host of reasons. And then, of course, there's the money on the sidelines in the SPACs. We talked about that yesterday. There's the money on the sidelines from the big hedge funds. We talked about that yesterday. There's the money on the sidelines of the big banks who want to take houses and put them in their portfolio. And then there's you and I, small mom and pop investors that are out there. They're also looking for any opportunity to buy houses at a discount. So needless to say, here we are back to the conversation of COVID-19 brought a huge wave of economic turmoil, including huge job losses. We kind of went off on a tangent there, why the job market is a lot stronger than it was, not quite as strong as it was right before the pandemic. But as we work out these other wrinkles, that the stimulus package, believe it or not, helped a lot of people. And yet, on the other hand, it still has its detrimental effects in the marketplace. There's financial hardship for millions of Americans, some still, in a time when many people were and still are in dire need of financial assistance. You could reasonably expect personal loan debt to skyrocket, right? You could expect that. Well, watch the numbers as I share them here. Forbes Advisor, and that's where I'm getting a lot of these statistics from Forbes. They examined the changes in personal loan debt between 2019 and 2020 through public credit report data. There's the old credit reports there, selling that data. These debt statistics show personal loan originations fell during the pandemic. No surprise there, right? Now, why would people go out borrowing money, or why would people lend money? Think about that side of the coin during a pandemic when there's uncertainty about the future in the marketplace. So therefore, debt grew, but grew at a slower pace than it did in 2019. So interesting, the economy grows, therefore the ability to shoulder more debt grows. So the growth of debt is natural in a growing economy. But here we go. We saw the growth slow down. Well, I'm going to take a quick break here. A few words from our sponsor. I want to break down how much personal loan debt growth slowed. I want to talk about the outstanding debt balances. What happened to that? And then we'll also talk about the average loan balance. We'll talk about consumer spending. We'll talk about refinancing credit cards. You got a lot more here coming on the Real Estate Show. So don't touch that dial. You're listening to the Real Estate Show. My name is Eric Willner, and I will be right back. And Erica is in the house. In fact, I happen to know she is in the house. So is Rudy. Rudy's in the house. Rudy Sr., how are you? And Sam and John and Gary. And let's see who else. The list goes down and down. Cindy is in the house. I didn't see. Were you on the call last night on our inner circle call? I don't remember seeing your phone number there. But we had a cool conversation. A lot about this very topic of turning debt into wealth. And it's kind of funny, when you know the old stories that when you buy a red car, you realize how many other red cars there are out there on the road and on the highway. And so as I've been talking about this whole conversation of turning debt to wealth, I ran in and I got a phone call from a guy whose website is about that. I was talking to a financial advisor yesterday whose mission is to help people get out of debt and turn debt into wealth. So it's a very, I should say, it's very much in the realm of the efforts of a lot of people, but there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot more until I see more people with zero debt. When it's the rule instead of the exception. That's our mission here, is to help more and more people get from out of debt and into the position to be able to buy real estate, because real estate is the greatest vehicle to get you to zero debt. And welcome back. For those of you just joining us here on the Real Estate Show, you are listening to America's #1 show about real estate, America's longest running show about real estate, daily radio show, 22 and a half years, going strong through good times, through bad times, up cycles, down cycles, flat cycles, through the Great Recession. I thought that was a big deal. And now even through the Great Pandemic. The Real Estate Show has been a lighthouse in the midst of all the noise, helping more real estate investors do well in real estate, and our personal mission here on the Real Estate Show is to educate and empower more Americans, more people here in America to own a piece of the American dream. And I don't care whether you have no credit, bad credit, or great credit. Call us. We can help you get into that first home. I don't care if you have good income. If you can show me, and there are, it's not just W-2s, the old what the banks require. It's not just W-2s and tax returns. You show me that you can afford to pay your rent, I'll show you how you can afford to buy a house. That's how good we've become over the last 30 plus years here in the real estate market. And we would love, there's nothing that we love more than, popping the cork on that new champagne bottle of one more person getting their very first home, of one more investor getting their first home, getting their 21st home. Real estate is by far the best investment vehicle out there, bar none. It is what I call the ideal investment, in fact. And that's why not only are we here 5 days a week, 5 different ways that you can consume the Real Estate Show at 5 p.m. But I'm going to tell you 5 reasons why real estate is the best, the ideal investment out there. Number 1, real estate, different than many assets that you have to hold on to a long time and then cash it in. Real estate provides cash flow, real, hard, spendable cash flow, the kind that you can buy groceries with, the kind that you can buy more investments with. Real estate provides tax advantages. More tax advantages than any other asset class out there, bar none. That's why more millionaires are created through the ownership and the building of a real estate portfolio than any other vehicle out there. Real estate provides equity, equity that you can even create. Real estate provides equity through the systematic pay down of a mortgage. Real estate provides equity through the manufacture of additional space, the upgrade of the existing structure. there's a lot of different ways that I can actually force equity. And in fact, tonight's workshop, tonight at 8 p.m. So if you want to attend, even though the word there is credit, text the word credit to 561-861-2366, and you'll get an invitation. And it's all about building equity. But we're going to build equity through the systematic and efficient elimination of credit. And that's what our workshop is tonight at 8 p.m. You're invited. All you have to do is text credit to 561-861-2366, and I will send that to you. So we talked about five different ways: income, tax advantages, equity, appreciation, and the ability to use positive, good leverage in order to build your portfolio faster. I got some great stuff. In fact, I've been talking with a lot of financial advisors lately. There's a special niche that financial advisors are missing in their planning, and coupled with what we're talking about, eliminating debt, creating more equity, allowing the advisors to do a better job, number one. Number two, to be able to answer the question, when will I be debt-free? When will I be able to retire? Not cutting, going back to eating, 2 meals a day instead of 3, driving 1 car instead of 2, cutting my lifestyle. It has been said that it takes about 80% of your pre-retirement income to live comfortably in retirement. And yet most people take a huge cut when Social Security is their largest source of income. In fact, I was talking to a Social Security expert yesterday, and we're going to have him come on our show to talk about how to optimize that part as well and be prepared to have that as a supplement, call it a turbo or even a base, but there's nothing out there that beats real estate. And then so we talked about the 5 different reasons. And there's my favorite number again, right? So back to our conversation before the break, we were talking about the effects of COVID on personal debt. And here on the midweek report, I wanted to tell you that personal loan debt growth slowed. And that's a good sign. That's, it could have been a lot worse, as most people, as we saw a lot of the unemployment skyrocket, and we saw a lot of the incentives and the stimulus being required. But at the same time, it obviously must have had a good effect because personal loan debt growth slowed. Outstanding loan debt did increase by $18 billion, which when you think about that, it sounds like a lot of money. When we've been talking about stimulus packages of $1 trillion, that so far over $10 trillion have gone on, only $18 billion in increased personal debt. Good job, America. That's actually pretty good news. The average loan balance per capita increased by $199 per borrower. Think about that. That is really commendable when you think about that. And think about this now for all of those folks waiting for the blood in the streets and the mortgage foreclosure tsunami. I don't think so. Now let's talk about consumers. Opened up 3.1 million new accounts, a literal drop in the bucket. New loan originations fell 26%, 26.5%, in fact, compared to 2019. The average loan size fell by about $1,200. Refinancing credit cards. Now, remember yesterday's strategy? Refinance those credit cards. Move from bad debt to zero interest loans if you have it. If you don't have the credit to that, then you should be there on my workshop tonight. Refinancing credit cards and consolidating debt were very common uses in the last year. And the average credit score, believe it or not, it was up. The average credit score, which at one time was close to 600, in fact, in some cases below, now is at 643. And that's the average credit score out there. You want to see how to bump that up 100 points? Text the word credit. Come to my workshop tonight. You can do that simply by texting the word credit to 561-861-2366. That's 561-861-2366. 2366. We're going to talk about how to eliminate mortgage debt, student loan debt, auto loans, credit card in one half, maybe even 1/3 of the time if you're a good student there. Anyway, that's the music. I'm out of time in today's show. We'll be back again, same place, same time tomorrow. So until then, remember, drive safe, wash those hands, and make it a great day. Bye-bye. That was good stuff.